All right, biggest news of the week. The Tour de France routes are out. Men's Tour, Women's Tour. They were announced in Paris on Tuesday. We're going to get into both on today's show. We're going to talk about who these races are sort of tailored for, what they might be trying to do in terms of, I don't know, attracting a couple high-profile riders to the Tour who we're talking about maybe not coming next summer. Talk about the kind of, well, should we complain about the driving? I think, Jonny, we should complain about the driving. Should we complain about the driving?
Well, you're threatening to not turn up until Toulouse, so it might just be me doing the driving.
Just be you and probably Ronan driving. I don't know. Anyway, we're gonna get into all the routes, what they mean, what we have to look forward to for next summer. Let's kick off big picture. Jonny, you watched the tour presentation today.
Can we start with a review of the presentation?
Yeah, let's talk about the presentation itself. How was it? Did you enjoy it?
It's long as usual. It's 2 hours. Because basically, to keep on doing the presentation in person when it's broadcast on Twitter, on Eurosport, everywhere, you have to give enough reason to get people in the door. So we have all the montages. Christian Prudhomme's there. There was a sort of president of the Nord department saying that they've got beer, frites, and they know how to party.
Do you know what it felt like? It seemed like they'd invited a bunch of mayors to come and present it felt like a kind of school assembly. So this is what's good about my part of France.
Well, it also felt like a school assembly because a lot of the riders who got up on stage and processed across were the French guys who we are not necessarily as familiar with, or I'm not as familiar with, and especially when they're not wearing cycling gear. So you're kind of looking at me like, who is that? That's Kevin Vauquelin. But Pogačar didn't turn up. Evenepoel didn't turn up. Vingegaard didn't turn up. I missed I'm pretty sure saying Vollering wasn't there or Kopecky or anyone. So they were missing a lot of star power, probably because it's 2 hours or an hour and a half of sitting there until you actually get to see the route.
I'm honestly amazed at how many people they normally convince to go. So this year seemed more like what I would expect.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. We don't have to get into the politics of who turned up, who didn't. But eventually, we got the route. We already knew it's starting in Lille. But what we didn't know is that we're opening with a sprint stage for the first time since 2020, I think, with Alexander Kristoff. Kristoff was there. Ian's going to do a rundown, I think, and we'll probably be on the website by the time you listen to this, of the best and worst fashion at the presentation. And Alexander Kristoff in particular was looking interesting. So we've got a sprinter probably going to win the Open Yellow jersey, which is fun. It's sort of a collector's item now. And then, broadly speaking, we go anti-clockwise around France this time. So we hit up a bit of Brittany. The main thing there is we've got a double ascent of the Mer de Bretagne on the first Friday. And then we sort of make our way all the way down over only 3 stages to the Pyrenees. And then we've got Haute-Cam, we've got a mountain time trial to Périgueux, and then we've going back to Luchon-sur-Bagnères for the first time in 36 years. I think that's the one.
It's been a long time.
I think that's the one they haven't been there for a while. And then good climb. And then we head across to the Alps via Mont Ventoux. So there'll be a summit finish there for the first time since 2013.
As long as the wind doesn't blow.
Yes, true. That's the thing, though, on this is that any stage that looks slightly boring, they're always like, and this could be a windy stage. And as we know, it rarely ever is a windy stage. It's just they've been given the right money from the right mayor, and it's en route to where they're trying to get to. So then they're just like, wind, there'll be wind. And then we've got the Alps, and we're doing, where are we going in the Alps? We're going everywhere. Oh, Col de la Loze, the Queen stage.
Yep.
Col de la Madeleine. We've just been looking at mountains all. Yeah, La Plagne. Just been looking at mountain profiles all morning, so they're all blurring into one. But it's a traditional tour, I would say.
No
as
cobbles.
Traditional as you can get. No cobbles, unfortunately.
No sand. No gravel.
No sand either, Kit.
There's no sand either.
And it's all within France for the first time since 2020, because we had 2021. Anyway, because we had Copenhagen, Bilbao, and then Florence, and I got Lille. So at some point you have to have your medicine. So we'll be spending 5 days in Lille, but it'll be a good time. It always is. Is that enough detail? If I
think that's a good amount of detail. Yeah, let's break down some of the talking points out of this. The first one for me is it's really backloaded. So like I think there's a pretty decent chance that we enter. Well, so the first rest day is very late because Bastille Day falls on a Monday, so they don't want to make a rest day on Bastille Day, so they made the first rest day on a Tuesday. So we get all the way from the start on a Saturday through the entire week, through the next weekend, through the next Monday, and then we finally get a rest day. And in that whole time, there's not much climbing, right? There's like bonus seconds in the Mur de Bretagne and a couple other little things that are potentially going to move things around a little bit. That stage near Clermont-Ferrand is going to be quite hilly. We've done a bunch of stages near there in the last couple of years, but really the mountains don't start until 11 days into the race, which is really backloaded compared to previous years.
I would say on the bright side, for those hoping for an entertaining first week and a half, it's not like that's all sprint stages though. There's a bunch of hillier days or days where you could see breakaway winners or maybe GC action. So it's at least not going to be 14 days of just like sprint over that entire stretch. We should get some interesting non-bunch sprints there.
Yeah, it's not like once upon a time when the GC riders would have waited till the last week. There is definitely going to be somebody, I can think of a particular Slovenian, who wants to punish people who think maybe they could wait until week 2 to peak. So yeah, it's definitely there's no, I don't think there's any risk of it being boring.
Who does it suit, Dane? Who's gonna win the Tour de France next year?
I think there's some nuance to that one, Caley.
No,
I don't think you can realistically design a tour route that doesn't suit Tadej Pogačar.
Mm-hmm.
I think any tour route that we're going to see is going to favor Tadej Pogačar. He's going to be the favorite for the race because I don't really think there's any like Grand Tour skill set, specific Grand Tour style challenge where Vingegaard is significantly better than Pogačar. I think there are some areas where it's like maybe a toss up, and then there are several Grand Tour skill sets where Pogačar is clearly the leader. And so the short answer to your question is I still think Pogačar is the favorite. I think every tour route is going to favor Pogačar. However, on the spectrum of tour routes that really favor Pogačar and only kind of favor Pogačar, I gotta think that Vingegaard's probably happy. He's thinking this is only one that kind of favors Pogačar because the route that Tadej Pogačar would want to see is one that has like it's got the gravel, it's got the cobbles, it's got crazy descents, and it's got punchy climbs. And in general, as Jonny said, it's a more traditional route. Big alpine climbs. That's the one area where Vingegaard feels like he has an advantage. I don't even know that that's true. I don't know that he does have an advantage there. But
that's what's interesting about the time trial, isn't it? And we're actually going to get a real answer on the mountain time trial.
Yeah.
Who is the better climber on a straightforward start from the gun and go?
It's 11 kilometers up Paragoud, which is it's going to be like I think that climb is 10K, so it's basically straight uphill. There's like maybe a kilometer flat at the bottom.
And I'd imagine that Vingegaard is going to target that stage and like 2 others in the high mountains to really go all in. That's kind of how that's at least how they did things this year. It didn't work out, but they decided to target a small number of high profile major opportunities to get a bunch of time, whereas Pogačar is just like chipping away every one of these stages trying to get more time. And I don't know that there's a whole lot of I think Pogačar would just love to see at least compared to Vingegaard 21 stages of like out of Clermont. I mean that's where he would destroy Vingegaard is if we have these if you have like punchy cobbled climbs. That's where he's much better. And I think this race, because it's got the Col de la Loze. We have actual data of Tadej Pogačar not doing well in that area. I don't know that's going to happen this time. I still think he's the favorite. He's going to be favored on any route, but I think Vingegaard's got to be happy as he can be with any route that's going to come out. This is one that he's probably going to like.
I quite like that it's so backloaded because I think was it the most recent tour? I can't remember, but there's been these times when by like stage 14 or 15, after like a really great opening 2 weeks of sort of GC racing, the tour is then over, and then you're just kind of plodding through the last few breakaway stages or whatever. I'd much rather have that sort of breakaway drama and whatever and excitement as the opening course, and then it's like second, third week, you're used to the tour being on every day now, and then you finally get the sort of the big swings from Pogačar and Vingegaard, and you get the final sort of part of the story. I much prefer that. I think I like having those mountain bits right after one another and only a couple of transitional days in between.
We could have like 5 or 6 yellow jerseys in that first week and a half.
Yeah, exactly. And then people will then race for not only the stage but that yellow. Whereas when the yellow's already decided, then you just have, you set the breakaway up the road and that's it. Whereas, especially when you've got all these like second tier is probably empty in terms of GC riders. Probably first tier of Pogačar, Vingegaard, maybe Evenepoel, and then a third tier of everyone else. And at least then they probably would get allowed some, or at least they've got the chance of maybe grabbing something for themselves. Because if you're finishing like 5th to 15th in GC on Tour de France, there's nothing usually for you.
Well, yeah,
like, that's a big change, isn't it?
Has the opportunities for Ben O'Connor to like go get the jersey and do something fun for a little while, and I think that's hopefully what we'll get to see.
One thing that Ian's going to go into in his fashion, he just reminded me because of AG2R, even though he's moving, is that Sam Bennett and another AG2R guy who I've forgotten the name of, they turned up to the presentation. They were in AG2R suits. Like had the little logo on it, and I was just like, "Why?" That's I know they've got all their decathlon money now, but that is surely an expense that you can spare. Just let people wear their own clothes.
I have a favorite stage. Favorite stage. Okay. I'm calling it now. Is going to be stage 10. Anazat to Le Mont d'Or.
Oh, the Bastille Day.
Yeah, Bastille Day stage.
Bastille Day is always a good day.
4,400 meters of climbing on that day,
and it's literally is never flat. It's those hills outside Clermont-Ferrand that we spent a bunch of time in previously, in sort of Bardet territory, right? It's going to be an awesome stage on Bastille Day. They built it this way to make it a potential breakaway stage.
Yeah,
obviously, because that's Bastille Day, and that's the only way they're going to win the French riders. But it's hard enough that I could totally see Tadej Pogačar wanting to snag that day. I think it's going to be really interesting. One of those kind of multiple races within a race kind of stages. I think in general, I really like the route. I alluded to this in the intro, but I think that the amount of driving is obscene. There's just a lot of like really inefficient kind of back and forth nonsense, which, just from a like sustainability standpoint and us having to refill diesel on a regular basis, it's unfortunate. We saw 2 years ago with the Tour that it was very possible to just put us in a city for 3 or 4 nights and like kind of do a little hub and spoke kind of situation, right? And there's none of that. There's none of that this time. The closest thing would be maybe in the Pyrenees. I guess you could probably stay in Pau or Tarbes the whole time,
and we will.
Which, wow, Lord, we're gonna stay at Lord because
are we
the weirdest town in France?
Okay.
Just for giggles.
Do we like the fact that we're back in Paris?
Yeah. I mean, Nice was cool last year. Like that was a really cool finish. I liked it.
We didn't exactly. The race didn't gain much from it.
No. I mostly liked it because like we got to go for a swim.
You can swim in this then. I heard that
really important for everyone. Really important for everyone.
All the listeners out there will appreciate the fact that we got to go for a swim last year. But there'll be no swimming unless the Seine is still clean. Yeah, which I don't think it is.
Still clean? When was it clean?
Well, didn't they clean it for the Olympics?
For like 5 minutes.
They failed to clean it. Just the mayor jumped in to try and prove that it wasn't gross, but I don't think they did much to clean it. Anyway.
And no one's heard from her since, No, it's a fun route. I think that opening like extra long 10-day first week without a rest day, there's going to be some days in there where if there's a dominant sprinter, it could be quite long and dull for everyone. Peloton and audience, but you never know.
I think that first week is going to be, it's going to feel a little bit dull in the moment, but then we're going to get a week and a half in, and the Tour is still going to be very open from a GC perspective. And I think we're going to be happy that they did it this way.
Do you
so think... in After Dark today, just to really briefly tease this, in After Dark we're going to talk about how to be a tourist at this year's Tour. Which is I wrote this story last year. I'll write the story again this year. But yeah, that'll be in the After Dark section. So like, if you wanted to go to the Tour this year as a tourist, how would you do that based off of our collective? What are we up to? 20 or so Tours de France covered. How many do you have, Jonny?
I was just trying to think. This will be my 6th.
Yeah,
I'm
on
I'm an
15,
old person
so
now.
you're a very old person. Anyway, we're gonna do that at the end of the show in After Dark. So that's the members only section.
Yeah.
If you're listening to the free feed, you won't get that. Sorry.